Hello BookTube. Today I'm returning to the alphabet tags created by Jim of Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff. This time it's the C tag. The alphabet tags were originally released back in 2021 and were a lot of fun to do. So I've decided to reprise the alphabet tag. So far I've already done the first two letters of the English alphabet, and I'm going to proceed with the rest of them. So let's get started. C is for countries: Cuba, Colombia, Chile, Congo, Cyprus, Czechia, China, and Canada. What was the last book you read, or in my case, likely bailed on, by an author from Canada or China or another country beginning with C? So, Cuba, I read um, Cuba: An American History by Ada Ferrer. It's the history of Cuba, primarily focusing on the toxic relationship between Cuba and the United States. Ada Ferrer was originally born in Cuba. For Colombia, I bailed on 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, probably more than 10 years ago. I checked it out from my local library and did not get far into it before I bailed on it. Chile, the most recent book from Chile that I've read is a collection of poems by Pablo Neruda that I read for one of my first college classes. I do not believe I've read anything by somebody from Congo or Cyprus. And while I do have Immortality by Milan Kundera, who is a Czech author, I have not read it. So I do not believe I've read anything by a Czech author. For China, I recently tried to bail redeem, which is my word for revisiting a book that I had previously bailed on. Soul Mountain by Gao Xingjiang. I first bought the book back shortly after Gao won the Nobel Prize in Literature. So probably sometime in the early 2000s. Although I don't recall if I read or bailed on the book shortly after I bought it or if I waited until I was in college before I tried it and bailed on it then. I did not get too far into it. It's about a character who is likely a stand-in for the author, going on an extended holiday after he runs afoul of his superiors and the government. Last December, I think it was last December, I did a bail redemption attempt on Soul Mountain. I had got rid of the copy that I had, but a few years ago, I started to get a hankering for Nobel Prize laureates that I previously had some kind of encounter with. Whether I successfully read their book or more than likely I bailed on them. And I wanted to revisit them. So I bought like The Right by Gunter Grass, Soul Mountain by Gao Xingjiang, The Black Book by Orhan Pamuk, and I think that's it. And also Burger's Daughter by Nadine Gordimer, even though I have not yet reacquired the two books by Gordimer that I had previously, The House Gun and jump in other stories. I don't recall if I had my son's story at the time or not. Anyway, so I did a Bill Redemption attempt of Soul Mountain, and while I did get much further my second attempt than I did my first, I think I read to about almost the 100-page point, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, before I built on it again. And for Canada, that would be my most recent bill attempt, or my attempted bill redemption of The Moons of Jupiter by Alice Munro. I am not totally, well, okay. So I picked, as I mentioned in my video about short fiction, yesterday, I picked out The Moons of Jupiter by Alice Munro to read because it was published in the year of my birth. And a few years ago, Criminali introduced or created a reading event in which participants would read works that were published in the year of their birth. And so I picked The Moons of Jupiter amongst other works, and I ended up bailing on all of them. And I think sometime last year, or maybe even this year, I don't remember, I had another go at that collection and build on it again. Just Alice Munro, I do not see the appeal of her work. It's just dull. So that's that. Moving on to C is for Canine and Cat. Show me yours. Now, ordinarily, I would have skipped this particular prompt because I do not have any dogs or cats. But my brother and sister-in-law have assembled quite the menagerie of cats. So I thought I would show you a picture of one of the kittens they have. So let's come to the camera. That is Cinnamon. My brother and sister-in-law have the horrible habit of naming their pets after food. Its sibling is Oreo. So these two kittens are the children of a stray cat that favored my brother and sister-in-law's yard. And so she had a litter of kittens. I think there were 4, 2 of which unfortunately got run over, and the other 2 were brought into the house, into the house. And so, yeah, Cinnamon decided to crawl up on me while I was over there watching my nieces and nephews. And also, when they were a little bit younger, really enjoyed using my mother's wheelchair as a playhouse. C is for classic. What was the last classic book you've read? Well, sticking with the Bales, I guess I can say As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. So one of the many booktube events taking place in August is Faulkner in August, in which participants read a novel by William Faulkner. This year's selection is I Lay Dying, which is about a poor rural family in Yakanapanafa County who go on a disastrous trip to the county seat to bury the family matriarch, not with her married family, the family she married into, but with the family that she was born into. And it leads to disaster for most of the family. And I read it in college for a class, and at the time quite liked it. When I was younger, I definitely had a greater taste for um, classics and modern and contemporary literary fiction, which I've largely I don't have anymore. And so this past reading attempt, I just noticed that the characters just didn't really work for me. They didn't sound authentic or how I would imagine somebody in their situation, education level, to sound like. They're a little bit more erudite, a little bit more, a few dollars more in their vocabulary than they would in the child. The character of Vardaman does not sound like a child at all. Um, and the character Dewey Dale just reads more like she reads more like a fantasy of the author than an actual teenage girl. So anyway, moving on to C is for children's book. What was the last children's book you read for your own enjoyment? I don't think I've read any children's book um, in a while. In fact, I probably am going to say it would have to be the same book from the last time I did this tag, The Never-Ending Story by Michael Ende. C is for coloring book. Adult coloring books are a thing. Have you tried one? What are your thoughts on this? I myself have not tried an adult coloring book, although my mom has, as a way to have some form of hobby, and she doesn't particularly like it. She finds it tires out her um, hand. I think they're okay. If you would like to do them, I myself would just prefer doing my own art rather than coloring. Although I haven't done any art in quite a while, for a myriad of reasons, largely the space in the old apartment where I did my art was usually blocked off by boxes. And here, even though we have more space and more bedrooms, I still don't really have a space to do art. It's kind of annoying, especially as I'm sort of getting a bit of an urge to actually pick up some more art supplies and try to get back into art. C is for comedy. What is the funniest book you have read? I don't recall off the top of my head. The C is for comic book. Can you explain to me the attraction of these? So, I mean, there are a number of attractions for comic books. I think, on the one hand, for me, what most attracts me to comic books, and by comic books, I'm not only talking about manga, which is Japanese comic books, but also like American superhero comics, is that the narrative. If the narrative can hook you, then you have like a continuing storyline that can last for years or decades that just keeps you engrossed. And also the artwork is at its best, can be amazing. C is for cookbook. Do you have a favorite? Yes, I have several favorites. I think my most favorite one remains. I don't remember what my answer was the last time I did this, because my cookbook collection has expanded significantly since the last time I did this tag. But I think my favorite tag or my favorite cookbook is still Martha's American Food, which is a collection of recipes from across the United States. It's divided into regional chapters, um, with a good sort of spread of drinks and snacks and side dishes and main dishes and desserts and baked goods. It's a really good cookbook. And finally, C is for cancel culture, but both sides of the debate annoy me or annoy Jim, so there's no prompt for that. Well, cancel culture or banning culture annoys me immensely too, particularly the right wing side of it, which is far more powerful than perhaps some people uh, recognize. Um, so anyway, that was the C tag. If you would like to do this tag, consider yourselves tagged, and I will try to get to the D tag sometime this week, because I do want to try to do several of these tags. Um, I would have preferred to have done a tag a week, but in between doing the A tag and the B tag, there were several weeks of moving, so I couldn't do any tags then. So I'm going to try to double them up. Hopefully that will work out. Not doing like several in one day, but over the course of a week, because so I can do other tags or other videos. So until I see you next time, BookTube, thank you. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.